Hey, what's going on? I'm Jordan Harris. I'm your favorite host in the entire world. This is Sports Truth. So I probably should have named this show "Don't Shoot the Messenger." I probably should have named it that because I made a decision a long time ago just to give y'all the truth, not what you want to hear, but what you got to hear, what you need to hear. And I'm gonna do a whole lot of that today. And I know a whole lot of y'all hate to hear the words "I told you so," but we got to do that today. All right, so today we're talking about the Florida State Boston College game. The reason why I say I told you so is because in my last video, if you remember, I was talking about Florida State losing their first game of the season to Georgia Tech. And I was like, hey, man, don't be surprised if Florida State loses to Boston College. And then I went on to say, I'm actually pretty sure that Florida State's going to lose to Boston College. And if Boston College had any coach other than Bill O'Brien, whom I'm not a fan of, I would almost guarantee a victory for Boston College. And some of y'all put in the comment section thought I was crazy, but I told you so. So today we're just gonna talk about Florida State, Boston College. I know a lot of hosts, they typically focus on the winning team first, but I'm not doing that today. I typically go on the biggest story first. And while I do respect Boston College, a lot of people are not talking about them winning today. Most people are talking about the biggest story, which is Florida State going 0-2, which is mind-boggling to so many people. Today I'm going to talk about Florida State first, then we'll talk about Boston College. So let's jump into the Florida State stuff, all right? First thing, you got to start with the quarterback, right? So DJU, I'm not even going to try to pronounce his last name because I do respect the guy. I don't like disrespecting folks by mispronouncing their last name. So I'm just going to call him DJU. I'm not a fan of Florida State. As you see, I got a big Miami Hurricanes helmet right here. So that should tell you I'm not a big fan of Florida State. But this is like the first guy that played for Florida State that I actually kind of like. Like, I love to see Florida State lose, to be honest with you. I love to see him lose. But watching him, I'm like, I almost feel bad for the guy. If he wasn't wearing that spear on his helmet, I think I actually would feel bad for him. I really do. So you look at him on the sidelines, he looks like a nice guy. He looks like he's trying real hard on the field, maybe trying too hard. You look at him on the sideline and his coach is telling him what to do. Like I remember it was like in the second quarter, they showed a close-up of him on the sideline, and this is right after the fans started booing him. So he's on the sideline, the coach is talking to him, and he is listening intently to what this coach is saying. He just nodding his head like, yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I'm like, this poor dude, he is really, really trying. And people made him out to be this thing that he's just not going to be. And it's just almost sad to watch. Like I said before, if he was playing for any team other than Florida State, I really would be pulling for this guy. But like I said in my previous video, we saw him at Clemson with a stacked team that Trevor Lawrence left for him. And he just couldn't get it done. Then he goes to Oregon State because he needs a fresh start, as they say. And we saw he's just not that good. And then all of a sudden he gets to Florida State and people are like, oh yeah, he's the guy. He's going to get it figured out now. And I'm like, come on, man, it's just not realistic. So I hate that these folks put these unrealistic expectations on him. It kind of reminds me of like, and this is going to be kind of crazy to y'all probably, but there's this saying like, if when a woman catches the man in the action of cheating, right, catches him in the act of cheating, and the man says, believe me, I wasn't cheating. Don't believe your lying eyes. That is what this situation means to me. Whenever Miami landed Cam Ward, all these people cheering for Florida State was like, we've got a quarterback just as good. His name is DJU. He's just as good, I'm telling you. And I'm like, but I've seen this dude at Clemson with a loaded, stacked team. I saw him play at Oregon State. He wasn't very good then. My eyes told me what they needed to tell me. And y'all's eyes probably told you what they needed to tell you too, but you just wasn't being honest with yourself. So that's unfortunate. A couple of things that really stood out to me watching DJU. The first thing is I did not realize how statuesque he is. Homeboy just stands in the pocket a lot of the time and just waits for the pocket to collapse on him. Like he doesn't want to roll out. He doesn't step up and through. He doesn't do any of that. He just holds the ball like a statue and the pocket just closes in on him. And he ends up getting sacked by the offensive tackles basically. Like they just like close in on him. He just falls down. I saw that a couple of times in this Boston College game. That's a big concern. The second concern is that he reads things a lot slower than I thought he did when he was playing at Oregon State. Like Oregon State, he seemed like he was just inaccurate too often. But last night, watching like him in this Florida State uniform playing against Boston College, he seemed like he was just confused most of the time. Like he didn't know what the defense was trying to do. Seemed like he didn't know what the offense was. Like he didn't know what his first, second, and third read was supposed to be. He just looked lost. Then he made a couple of decisions that I was like, why would... Now, of course, I'm rooting against Florida State. Just being honest with you. Rooting against Florida State. But he did a couple of things that made me say, why would anybody do that? So the first thing, it was 3rd and 17. These are two different plays that I wrote down. 3rd and 17. I think it was the third or the fourth quarter. Boston College rushed 4. They just rushed 4. Florida State had 5 blockers up front. They didn't keep their running back in. So they had 5 blockers up front. Boston College rushed 4. 3rd and 17, DJU threw a 5-yard out. A 5-yard out route and led his receiver out of bounds. The receiver got 1 foot in and stepped out. And I'm thinking, if you backed up on your 15-yard line, you're down multiple scores, it's 3rd and 17. Why on earth would you throw a 5-yard out? What are you being safe for? The game is basically over if you don't complete this 3rd and 17. Throw it down the field. It's not like he got blitzed by 7 people and he was rushed and had to throw a quick out. He threw an out when they were just rushing 4 players. So when I saw that, I'm thinking, this dude is lost. The next play, it was even more confusing to me. So Boston College, I think this was probably in the third quarter, Boston College was showing blitz. They had 5 players at the line, showing blitz, 100% showing blitz. And it had 6 players right there in front of the line showing blitz. Florida State had 5 blockers up front, right? So he's got 5 up front. They have 6 defenders lined up face to face. So easy math would tell you one of these defenders is going to come through scot-free. DJU didn't make any kind of adjustments to the line. He didn't walk up to the line and point out the mic. He didn't do any of that stuff. He just clapped his hands like he typically does. Boom. Got the ball, got the snap. And, of course, one of the defenders came rushing in his face, and he looked shocked by it. Shocked. Ended up throwing it into, he tried to throw it to his running back who came out the backfield, but he threw it right into the dirt. And I was thinking, boy, this dude is lost. So DJU is struggling. Let's just say that. These first 2 games, he's looked bad. I don't think he is that bad of a player, though. I think he's playing worse than what he really is. I really believe that the fans and all the noise and everybody booing him after one possession, I think that's really starting to get to him, and it's making him try too hard. If you've played any sport like I've played, you know when you try too hard, it typically doesn't work out for you. And that's what it looks like he's doing to me. So DJU is struggling. But after the first game, there's one thing that I did say that people thought I was crazy for, which I was saying the wide receivers are not helping the man. They just not. They're not getting enough separation. I don't know. I can't fault the play call because I don't know about that. But I'm just looking at the receivers, and every time they showed the replays in the first game, they would show the field, and I'm like, there's nobody really open. So you can't really blame the quarterback for that one. This game, I saw quite a few players open, and they just were dropping passes. They had 3 or 4 drops that were killers. I know the tight end dropped 2 of them. One was in the end zone. One was across the middle on a third and 10 maybe. He caught the ball. He threw it to him right across the middle. He was wide open. Could have ran for probably 15 more yards. He just dropped it. So the receivers, they got to do better. They're dropping the ball like crazy, and they're just clearly not getting enough separation. The separation that I saw in this game was based on play calling. It's kind of like in basketball when you have like somebody like Bill Self call timeout and they do it out of timeout play, right? And the play is ran so well. It's like a screen here, screen here, screen here, and then it's somebody wide open under the goal, and you're like, oh, okay. And you pass to him, he catches it, lays it up. Bill Self is good for like 3 of those every game for the Jayhawks. I saw Florida State do that a few different times this game, where the play was schemed so well that the middle linebacker maybe saw somebody run in front of him, and then he runs and tries to get on cover that guy, and then somebody comes right behind him going the other direction, wide open. I saw that happen a few different times where the play call got these players open, but you hardly ever saw a Florida State wide receiver just beat a Boston College player 1-to-1. That's a problem. All right, so the last thing I want to talk about with Florida State is their defensive line. After the first game, after Georgia Tech, if you watched my video, I was talking about how the defensive line was just not anywhere near what people expected this year. Nowhere near it. Especially after they had a pretty good defensive line last year, because this time they just didn't show up. Like, to get ran on the way that they did, their front seven just looked atrocious. I think they ended up having like 200 plus rushing yards. Georgia Tech did the exact same thing. Run the ball is what their coach kept saying. Run it, run it, run it. And before you know it, 200 plus yards, typically it equals a W if you don't give the ball away, throw interceptions and fumbles. All right, so let's go ahead and switch subjects now. Talk about Boston College. So, like I mentioned earlier, I would have picked Boston College. I would have guaranteed a Boston College win if they didn't have Bill O'Brien as the coach. I'm just not a big fan of his. Everywhere he's gone, he's worn out his welcome real quick. He's obnoxious. If you watch any of his press conferences, he just comes across as obnoxious, and I can understand why he would wear out his welcome really quickly. And then it just seems like he typically fails up all the time, which is crazy to me. I don't know how that works for Bill O'Brien, but it just works. But this game, it seemed like he did exactly what he was supposed to do. He saw the previous game that Florida State played. They could not stop the run. Bill O'Brien knows he's got a crazy fast running back, super shifty. He also has a really good running back. So he's like, okay, I'm just going to keep the ball in my quarterback's hands because he's the best player I got. And I'm going to do a run-first attack all game. We're going to hand the ball off. We're going to do play action, have the quarterback keep it and do a bootleg run this way. Maybe we'll just do an option, fake left, go right. Like he had all these simple things that he did. And as far as the defense goes, he just played it safe. Don't rush too many times. Don't give people wide open touchdowns because you're blitzing 8 people and you only got 3 defenders back and a running back catch the ball at the backfield and no one's there to tackle him. Just play it safe. Rush 3, rush 4, keep your defenders back and make DJU beat you that way. He just played it. He played it safe, to be honest with you, and it worked. That's all you've got to do to beat a team like Florida State. So kudos to Bill O'Brien because I'm not a fan, but he pulled it off. He did it. The next thing I want to talk about with Boston College, Thomas Castellanos. I hope I'm saying that right. He is the reason why I actually picked Boston College to win this game. He is the reason why. I wasn't big on their defense, wasn't big on their running game, not big on their wide receivers, tight ends, any of that stuff. I just watched Thomas Castellanos last year against Florida State, and I watched how competitive he was. I saw how quick he was. He's way quicker than he is fast. Like if you watch somebody like Michael Vick, their top end speed is ridiculous, and it might take him a while to get that speed going. But Thomas Castellanos, like he is at top speed after like 2 steps. If you're close to him about to sack him, he'll look to the left, look to the right, and just jump back, and you miss him, and then he turns around the corner. Like, dude is super quick. As some folks say, water bug quick. So he's the reason why I picked Boston College to win this game, because I saw what Florida State struggled with last week. And I'm like, if they couldn't stop, what's his name? Haynes King or something, whatever his name is, the running back for or the quarterback for Georgia Tech. I'm like, if they struggle with him, this Castellanos kid is going to go to work on them. And that's exactly what he did. He is going to be a problem for anybody this season. If you remember Georgia Tech back in 2010, maybe, I can't think of their coach's name, Paul something, but they would run that triple option every play. Like they would throw the ball maybe 6 times a game, and they would run it every other time because they would just do a triple option thing. That was annoying as heck to me. But that team, I would say they could lose to anybody in the country, but they could also beat Georgia tomorrow. Like, because it's such a weird offense. It's like, how do you prepare for that? You're not used to seeing something like that, so it could actually sneak up and beat somebody. I feel that exact same way with this team, with this Boston College team. Their quarterback is so shifty, so quick, so fast. Most people are not going to be used to playing against somebody like that, where he's not really running. Like if you watch Cam Ward, a lot of times Cam Ward runs left and right because he's looking down the field to throw it down there. This dude is like, nah, as soon as I see an opening, I'm taking off running. You're just not used to seeing that. So it's kind of like when you play basketball against an awkward player and he's doing all this irky-jerky stuff and you're just not used to seeing that. And you're like, why does this fool keep scoring on me? It's because you've never seen anything like it, so you don't know how to stop it effectively. So Thomas Castellanos, I give you all the credit for yesterday's game. Really impressive. And then the last thing I want to talk about with Boston College, they were a lot better than I expected. Same thing I said about Georgia Tech last week. Whenever Florida State lost to Georgia Tech, I kept saying, I think a lot of people are underestimating the fact that Georgia Tech is actually pretty good. And I think the same thing about Boston College. My thoughts on Florida State has drastically decreased. I think like at the beginning of the season, I was thinking they were like a C plus or a B minus team. Now I think that Florida State is like a C minus team. I think they'll probably finish right in the middle of the ACC this year. But Boston College, I do think that they are a pretty good team. I think they are a B minus team, a C plus team. I think they would get smacked by somebody like Georgia. They'd probably lose by 30 to Georgia. But I think if they play somebody like Syracuse, they'd probably beat them by 10 to 17 points. So I think they are B minus, C plus team. I think they're pretty decent. That's all that I got for you today. I appreciate you watching the video. Please do like the video, subscribe to the channel. We're going to be growing this channel pretty crazily over the next few months. College football is back. I know everybody's excited about that, just like I am. So you could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with me, and I truly appreciate that. Take care. God bless. Peace.